Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Soul Meets Heart, podcast for your soul. My guest today has actually spent over 2 decades turning blank pages into brand identities. In 2009, he and his wife sat down and decided to bet on themselves and built what started as a two-person operation and turned into Transform Design. It's a full branding and web agency out of Southern California. What I find fascinating about this story isn't just the design work, it's that he built a business model around access instead of overhead, giving companies a full creative team without the cost of a full time staff. He's also someone who's continually reinventing what his own craft even means. Right now, adapting his agency for a world where AI, not just Google, decides who gets found. Please welcome co founder of Transform Design, Elias Curtis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Hugo. Appreciate being here. And yeah, whatever questions you have, whatever you want to go through, then I'd love to discuss it.
Awesome, man. Well, first off, I want to say thank you for what you're doing for the world. There's a lot of businesses that are struggling being found. And a reference to a league of, what is it? The Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Right. So, I think there are people looking for, and this is for the listeners, there are people looking for you. You just need to build it correctly so that people can find you and get to you. And so I just want to thank you for what you're doing for small businesses. I think it's a wonderful thing. And it's really nice to have someone like you being able to
Sure.
do a lot of these things for these smaller businesses. And then we actually have two traditions, Elias, in our podcast. We actually have several, and you'll see kind of what they are later. But
Okay.
we have a few traditions that we like to start off with. The first tradition that we start off with is a meditation. So it's going to be super easy, I promise. All you have to do is we're going to take in a deep breath and we're going to breathe in love. So we're going to go ahead and inhale love, 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 love. And then you're going to exhale gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we just do this to kind of help us get grounded for this conversation and be present. So thank you for doing
Sure.
that with me.
Okay.
The second tradition that we start our podcast off with is I actually had my last guest leave a message for you. They have no idea who you are, they have no idea what you do, but this message was the message that they wanted to leave with you. And if it doesn't land, hopefully it lands for someone who's listening today. But the message they decided to leave for you was take it to the stars and believe that you can. Whatever it is you're doing will take off like a rocket ship. Just believe. And they emphasize on the rocket because she says she had a vision on the rocket, but whatever. She just said it'll take off like a rocket ship. So hopefully that lands. If not,
Sure.
all good. But we're going to be asking you to leave a message for the next guest afterwards as well. So, if you want to start thinking about that.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's good.
Nice. So you and your wife started a business in 2009,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I think then it transitioned to be official in 2015. Can you talk to me about what actually changed in those 6 years that made you say, "Hey, we're doing this work?" And actually, what did that transition teach you about the difference between doing the work and building the
Hmm.
thing?
Right. I was actually having a conversation with someone else earlier today, and they wanted to know the difference between freelancing and having a business, and how they're totally different, distinction, different purposes and models. But yeah, I mean, it's that transition from 2009 all the way to 2015 was what we would call the growing pains or the growing years rather. Very, very hard, right? Because you're just starting out in business and, learning a lot of things, finding out what works, going through a lot of the rejections, those were tough times, man, especially when you have AI integration and there's a lot of things that are more in the infancy stage, especially with like software in this space specifically. But I think it came down to, because when my wife and I first started the business 2009, it was more like just her and I just doing a lot of the projects together and, her doing more of the administration work and some of the design work and me just kind of, going out and doing the sales and working on the projects and working directly with clients, and so we were able to build it together, just the two of us over the at least 3-4 years, first 3-4 years. And then we started to get more business, right? There was an influx. People, wanted more projects. There was more of a demand, and then we ended up just going ahead and, hiring a team of designers and developers. And at that point, I was like, okay, I think it's important that we get incorporated. And so we ended up getting incorporated in 2015, and the team is still with us to this day, right? We still work together on projects, and it's been a good run, especially going through COVID and all these other, difficult situations. But looking back, I'm just like, wow, we've learned so much, we've grown a lot, and now that there's AI integration, we can go ahead and streamline a lot of the processes that we had before that we used to do that were manual. So yeah, we can definitely unpack that a little bit more, but yeah, that was the turning point, if you will. It's just when you're forced in a situation and you're like, okay, I got to do something about it. Then you just keep moving forward and learning and, continuing to learn from your, whatever mistakes or learning what works, finding solutions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Running a business with your spouse, I think that should be its own genre of relationships. Is there
Right.
a rule that both of you have, maybe spoken or unspoken, for keeping business Elias and home Elias from bleeding into each other?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's a question that a lot of people ask. Like, how do you balance the two, or how do what's the expectation look like, right?
Yeah.
Because you're married, you're in this relationship, and there's always the pull to spend more time with my wife, and there's a pull to go run a business and just go out and spend hours at a time building it, and then or perhaps even getting distracted by the hours, right? So now I learned early on, man, like you work hard together with your spouse. There's expectations, as far as like, hey, we're going to do this together. So walking in agreement is key, but also having the same, not only just expectation, but same goals, same understandings and values, because there's things that we do together that are just, pretty close knitted, if you will. But yeah, you have to be intentional. So like if I'm working too long, I'm like, yeah, I got to stop. I got to go spend time with my wife, and I got to be able to, take her out, go hiking, go traveling, go eat at a good restaurant, or, it's like dating her all over again. And then got to keep that fire going, got to keep it burning, because, it can definitely go out if you're totally distracted and doing other things that, you're not prioritizing.
Yeah.
But being a responsible husband and even a father, right? And a grandfather, by the way.
Grandfather,
Right.
you don't look old enough to be a
I,
grandfather.
I hit her all the time. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, just those extra layers of responsibility, right? So I want to be able to prioritize and be organized in that is important.
Yeah, I mean, my fiance and I work at home. We both work from home, not on the same thing, and we still bicker. So it's just kind of interesting to see how it would be working together on the same thing. Maybe if we align on the same goals, but it's always interesting to me when I see or meet couples who are doing a business together.
Mhm.
Your website, it quotes Edward Murrow on communication, that even with the newest technology, no matter what, it comes down to what to say and how to say it. 20 years into this career, has your answer to what you say changed more than how to say it, or is it the other way around?
It's both, right? It's still important, right? To know like who your audience is and the message that you're getting out with your brand. So communication is very, very important, especially in business, because a lot of the mistakes that we made in the past were because we didn't meet client expectations. We may assume, right, going into a project and going into a business relationship that things were going to work out, just to find out that we were not aligned, communications off, there's disappointment coming in there and other things. But it really is coming down to, all those questions. Why are you doing it? Who are you doing it for? What are you doing about it? It's going through that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You built a subscription model so companies could get a full creative team without having to hire staff.
Mhm.
What did you understand about small business owners' fear or exhaustion that made you build it that way instead of traditional project and invoice model that most design firms use?
So a lot of it has to do with our experience, doing this for 17 years. So we've seen like the changes in the market and technology and working relationships and the struggles that businesses have, because we share in that same sentiment when it comes to that struggle of like not growing or scaling for whatever reason, hindered by whatever it is, whether it's a lack of understanding, whether it's just lack of resource, or there's something disconnected. And so one of the things that we found out pretty early was that there's, these pain points, if you will, right? There's fragmentations in the systems of which businesses have. And so, focusing on more of the business operation side, because, we're very creative heavy, right? Heavy in the creative side. Brand designed has to look good. Everything has to look professional. And that's great. We still continue to do that to this day. But the side that was missing was more of the structure part, the automation. Now that AI is on the scene, that brings us a whole nother layer of efficiency to the table. But yeah, the business struggles. I mean, it could be cost. It could be, not having something that they need to succeed. Not having the right brand messaging, or maybe their website is not doing as well as it could, or not getting as many leads as they would like converted, so they're losing sales. And so how do we go in there and not just fix it, but explain how it works so that we can scale and grow in the end and get the results that they're looking for?
So thank you for answering that. I know that or you've done design maybe in your past as well. Can you tell me about, I know you won an award. I think it was in Eastern Connecticut State, right in your early days of designing. Did
Yeah.
that early validation help you, or did it get in the way in terms of needing to unlearn what good design is later on?
Yeah, I mean, I take the awards as grain of salt, right? And I do the work not because I have to. I do it because I enjoy doing it, right?
Mm,
There's a love and a passion for what I do, and it doesn't always necessarily feel like work, right? So I do it because it's just like, who I am and what I do. And I've always had this passion for computers and art, even when I was young, kid, right?
yeah.
And you're growing up and you're just like, my father he mentioned it when I was in high school. It's like, why don't you become a graphic designer, And then I looked into it and I was like interested in it. So I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in college for graphic design, and then I just took that and ran with it. But looking back, that's just something that was just I was gifted and talented to do so. So the validation didn't necessarily need that because I knew that I put out good work and people they enjoy it, they like it, they enjoy working with me and so forth. So I don't need to say too much about that, right? They do this, they do the talking, right? They'll we got reviews all over the web about the work that we've done for people, and and it's been good.
Okay. You're now building towards GEO. Can you, for those of us who are not aware of what that is, give us a breakdown of what is GEO and what does that mean?
Sure. All right. So in order to get to GEO, we got to explain SEO, right? And talk about the differences between the two, because there's also AEO too. And we can discuss that if you want to.
Yeah, please.
But SEO, that has to do with, search engine optimization, right? That's how businesses or anybody searching for a business or any person going on Google search, typing in whatever question they have, and then the business shows up, right? Listed on the search engine like Yahoo, Bing, and Google. And so it's been used for years. That's pretty much the go-to, right? You just have a question, go to Google, boom, type in something, search. Now, GEO, it is generative engine optimization,
Mm,
right? So you're having, the information, the data, right, being stored in these AI models, and they're being pulled from citations. So the citations can come from anywhere, any trustworthy, credible source. It can come from a Yelp. It can come from Yellow Pages. Any website that has an authority online, and if your business is attached to that website, perhaps as a backlink or credible information that you have about your business there and the authorities there, then what happens is the AI pulls that information and shows it into the search, right? Shows it up in the AI models so that they can find you or you can find them. Now, the AEO is answers engine optimization, right? So it's finding the answer. You're finding an answer to a question, to something very specific. And so as you continue to, I mean, they're measuring behavior, interests. There's a lot of things online that AI is just pulling information left and right every single day. Even as we're talking, just information is just growing and learning, and base is growing. And so it's becoming more sophisticated and a lot more efficient over time, which helps our systems because our systems are ran by
mhm,
AI integration.
mm.
But that's definitely a whole discussion right there in itself.
Yeah, I bet. I
Yeah.
mean, you've spent maybe your whole career focusing on being seen and understood by a human audience with SEO. What does that feel like to now be designing to be understood by a machine first?
It is strange, right? I mean, if you look at it that way, right?
Hmm.
Because you're looking at it like, I want this artificial intelligence to get as much information about me so that I can have more exposure, right? And it
Yeah.
does it through testimonials and reviews, and I mean, it grabs all information all over the place, even with this podcast, right? It's like, as soon as podcasts go out there and our names and business are attached to them, AI is going to be able to go ahead and just, read all that information, feed it to wherever it needs to go, wherever the people are looking for search, right? And there you are. And so the more citations you have, the more credibility, the more trust being built online, as well as, let's say reviews and testimonials, and just a lot more people are talking about you. Then that's also going to increase the ranking and exposure of who you are on the internet. It's pretty much how, yeah, it's been working.
You mentioned you have grandchildren, which was not something I was expecting, but I think you also have two sons, right?
Yeah.
In the house of a design agency owner, and I'm just asking because I have a 15-year-old myself, do either of them show any interest in creative work, visual work? And if so, are you more excited or more protective about it?
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, where you wrestle with certain things. It's like, well, because there's so many options you can. I mean, there's options that you can choose from. So where we're at in our business, we've had it for 17 years. Both my sons, one is 28, right, just got out of the Air Force, so he took the military route, and now he's has his family and doing well for himself. He's into cybersecurity, and that's what he enjoys doing, right? And then you have my youngest son, who's here at the home still. Right. He has a very entrepreneurial spirit. He's a go getter. He loves business. He loves to win. Right. And so, I have to always kind of explain things like, hey, this is, business is not like, quick and easy. You do have to take your time and have a plan and build a structure and build a brand and that whole thing. But, neither one of them are actually interested in having this business. If I were to pass away or, leave a legacy of whatever, they're not really interested in the business itself. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's their choice. You can go pursue your dreams or whatever you want to do. That's okay. But then that puts me in a position where I'll just end up selling the business one day. We'll see, right? To exit, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
I'm in my 40s, right? So I don't plan on doing this for the rest of my life, right? I mean, I have other plans that I like to do besides this, but we'll see, over the next 10 years and see, where we're at then, right? And then
Yeah.
I got to discuss all these things with my wife too, right? Because it's not just me
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
making these decisions, but yeah, either way. But if they come around and say, "Hey, Dad, we want to be part of the business, we want to, talk to you about these things," and I can reconsider, my decision then. But as of now, this is where they're at
Yeah.
in present time.
Yeah. You never know, really. I'm a musician. I do a lot of like
Yeah.
singing and performing and stuff. And my son could not be the more opposite of me. And
Right.
he's
Right.
totally into sports and more athletic than I ever was. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
super, super different personality.
Yeah. That's how it is, man.
Yeah. Transform design. I want to talk a little bit about the name. Was
Mhm.
that ever a personal statement before it was a business name?
My wife and I, we decided to use that name because we just had an idea in our minds about transforming businesses, right? Their identity, their brand, their whole, design positioning. So, we use the illustration of the caterpillar and the butterfly, right? How it transforms and metamorphosis. So a similar idea, and it's still the same today, right? We still work with businesses to transform their identity, their brand, and so forth. And but yeah, it works really well. We really enjoy our brand. We love our brand, and we're going to continue to grow and scale, and getting more out there and see what we can do for others to transform their business.
Yeah. Was there a season in your own life outside of business where the word transformed meant more to you?
Yeah, I would say so. As a believer in the Lord, I don't know if you've seen that in my bio. I'm a certified biblical counselor and discipler in the
Mm.
church.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, I mean, I believe in life transformation as well. That old things pass away, behold, all things become new. And so that also plays into my faith as well. Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Hmm.
You spent 2 decades or the better part of 2 decades helping other businesses find and tell their story, their brand, their voice, their gap between who they are and who they've seen. When's the last time you sit down and did that exercise on yourself?
Hmm. Like the before and after, or necessary changes.
I mean, do you do that often, or is it just like you are you self-reflective on the same things or the same advice you're giving other businesses? Are you focusing on that on
Well,
yourself?
it's a little bit of both. I'd say it's a mixture, right? Because there's times that I do, self-examine or within there and see what's going on. But at the same time, I'm always wanting to put the other person before me, right? Especially when you have a family, sacrifice is big, right? So you do all your work and you're providing, and you want to be able to support. But yeah, it is looking back and just saying, okay, where can things could be better, right? What can I change to get to the next level, if you will? Especially with all the changes going on with technology market, because there's things outside of our control, right?
Yeah.
So these platforms that we work on, from the technology that we use, a lot of that can just change. So it's like staying on top of it is also one thing, but being able to pivot and adjust when it's necessary as well is key.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
I don't know where I read this, but somewhere I read about venture capital network,
Yeah. Yeah.
and seems like a pretty different lane from branding and web design. Can you maybe talk to me a little bit about that? I know it's premium domains in the VC space.
Hmm.
What pulled you toward that, and what does that scratch that the design work doesn't?
So, all right. So I got a lot of stuff going on. Let's just be transparent, right? I got a ton of stuff going on, but I
Yeah,
don't want to confuse the listeners. I'll just
sure.
keep it really simple, right? Because I look at it the way we're heading as far as the market, and especially the internet. It's literally digital real estate. If you want to just talk about it at its base point, right? We live in a time where you can build all kinds of digital products and you can sell them online, right? And so, I mean, give you some examples. You have domains that you can buy and sell. You have websites that you can build and resell. You have brochures that you can, sell. You have courses, right? From, let's say, booklets. I mean, you go on and on with all the digital products that are even sold in marketplaces. So we're at a place now where you don't have to necessarily go to an actual marketplace to buy digital products. We can sell digital products straight from our websites now. And we can also put websites up for sale. Just build a site, put a banner on it, say this site's for sale. You
Yeah.
can include all the features, the domain, and everything else with it. And that's why you have like Flippa and, Empire Flippers, and you have all these other digital online real estate marketplaces. And so when you came across that venture capitalist, that was strategic, right? I went into an auction, I picked up some domains, and I put a landing page on one of the domains, and I pretty much, put on Flippa in different places just to be able to sell it. So it's still up for sale. It's just, I do a lot of different stuff, right? So I'm building HVAC websites, I'm building SaaS sites, and I'm doing a lot of this with AI integration and building out systems and
Yeah.
all-in-one platforms. So I'm having a lot of fun with this stuff. And so as I continue to build them and launch them, right, to go back to the whole rocket thing, to launch sites and to build them, put them out there, they're literally digital assets and real estate that's just there, and whoever wants to buy them, they can. And at the same time, I'm generating revenue on other projects that I'm working on that is outside of transform design. And what I mean by that is outside the ecosystem that feeds the hub of transform design through backlinks and other visibility and exposure methods. So
Hmm.
it's all part of this entire network, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was curious because I was like, how I don't know how I ended up there, but I did, and I was kind of like, okay, let me ask him about this.
Sure. Sure.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. Thank you for taking the time to answer that. We've seen design go from like hand coded HTML to WordPress to AI assisted now. Is there an instinct from your early career that you had to consciously unlearn because the tools or the audience changed?
Yeah. There's some instances of that. Let me get through, because I mean, technology. So for the most part, I mean, technology, it improves over time, right? So the things we did 10 years ago, things are a lot better today, right? Because we use Adobe products, Illustrator, Photoshop, and all of that. So that enhanced its features tremendously, right? And we use those products still, especially when we do manual design work and brands, because we'll get you we'll use AI for conceptualization, but to actually have AI do all that for you would probably not be a good move, especially if you're doing high quality work, right? So the whole unlearning part, I yeah, it's not much of unlearning as much as for me, it's adding on what I already know. So it's just building upon what I've already learned and growing from it, right? So I look at it as more of like Legos and building blocks. You just continue to build and build and build and build, and knowing that if the structure is big, the structure is strong and the foundation is strong, then you can continue to build, unless otherwise. But yeah, it's just constantly learning, man. And I'm pretty sure if we get back on a podcast again in 2 years from now, we'll probably have a whole nother conversation about something else that we probably didn't think about talking about today, right? And that's just how it is in this space. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to talk about rebranding or when someone needs to be rebranded or rebrand. They're often, I feel like when people are trying to figure out branding, they're really asking you to help them to tell them the truth about who they are or who they've become, especially with a rebrand, right? Like who I was here, now I got to show I'm over here, right? So is there a moment where like someone, and maybe you could tie this into a real story if you have one, where like you met someone or a client and their visual identity and their actual identity were completely out of sync, and untangling that, did it feel more like counseling than design?
Yeah, it's interesting because, we work with people, right? People have emotions, they got feelings, they got, ideas, they got dreams and having to work with them through that is, you know, it does take skill, but it also takes knowing, okay, what are the expectations? What are the goals? What's the problem? Because I've come across a lot of clients and customers over the years and I mean, we've got a strong client base that we work with for many years. They're still with us today and they trust us. And that's why we continue to work together. But to go up to somebody, I could tell you what not to do. To go to somebody that had a business for 20 years and told them that their brand's terrible, right?
Mm,
Because to them, they really love it. But from a business, from a professional standpoint and from an actual identity standpoint, we know that is off because it's not speaking to the audience like it should. So you definitely have to be very careful on how you approach that. And then
yeah,
it has to be backed up with, of course, love, but also education, right? You have to
yeah,
be able to explain your position of why they should change their entire brand. And it hurts because they spent time with this brand and now they have to spend more money to redo the entire thing. And where we're going, I mean, we've seen that with other bigger corporations where they've rebrand multiple times, right? So it is necessary to do so. But so whether I'm talking to somebody who's been in business for 20 years or talking to somebody who's starting out for the first time, a person starting out for the first time, they might be so excited they might just jump right in and do whatever they want to do. But there is an order and a process to everything that we do in business. And so it's really understanding how brand works, having a solid brand that people can trust,
yeah.
and then go ahead and build on that for years to come. So like in years from now, you're looking back, you're like, okay, that I have no regrets that we did that brand that way. And it brought us results and we'll continue to build on that. And that's what we want to get to with our clients.
That's amazing. I think even me as a brand or me building myself up as a brand, trying to establish myself as a brand, those are all things that business owners kind of are not good at just naturally, I would say. Treating their business like an actual business. A lot of times it's a side project, a side hustle, a lucky they got hired because someone saw something they did one time online and they're like, oh, yeah, I like that. I'll hire you to do mine. Whatever business that may be. What advice would you give someone who is trying to build a brand and where to start
Yeah.
and how to know they have to start, actually, if we can add that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So people starting out for the first time in business, they have to go through questions, right? Why am I doing this? How am I going to go about doing it? And who's this for? So just working through those questions in the beginning and getting real answers that stick, right? We just don't want just any loose answer and then just run with it. It's like, no, it has to be something that, they just may perhaps have a strong desire to do, or they can see, 10 years, they have a plan and they can say, okay, look, this is a great product or a great service based company. No matter what direction they go into, I mean, the questions are the same. All right.
Yeah.
But, what I can say is if there's a problem and you can solve it, then you're already ahead of a lot of the competition, right? Because it's more than just making money. It's putting the people first before that, and helping them to succeed if you're working with a business, or putting out a product that is something that is helpful in the market. So that's where the value is at. So that's what I would say to the new person.
Yeah. But what if this is just hypothetical? What if for someone, what would you say to someone who's like struggling with the idea, like maybe they feel stuck? What's like a realistic way for them to, when do they know they need to work on their brand? When is that like
Well, the easy answer is when it's not working.
it's not working?
Right? Because I mean, there's the facts. I've been working with my son, and he's all into the social media stuff, and I always have to remind him about revenue. It's like, okay, that's you're building something that you believe strongly is going to work. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many followers you have, it doesn't matter how many views you have, if you're not making revenue, right? That doesn't make any sense. Unless, I
Yeah.
mean, this is a business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
if it's a hobby, if you say, hey, this is a hobby and I just want to have fun, I just want to entertain people and just have a good time, that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But if you're saying this is a business and I want to build a strong brand and I want to live off of this and I want to be able to help people and grow this thing as big as possible, then I'm like, okay, well, to be able to sustain that is you got to do it financially. And so we got to start talking business terminology, right? Profit and loss, revenue and income, and go through that whole thing, right? So, but yeah, there's a lot more to it. But yeah, it's learning the basics, the fundamentals in the beginning of how does business work. And then also if you're stuck, we have to find out, okay, it's more of a like something going on inside of our heart, right? It's like, okay, why am I stuck? Right?
Yeah.
What's keeping me stuck? Like, why am I not moving forward and getting this thing done? Is it a lack of motivation? Is it fear? Is it lack of resources? Is it a financial restraint? So just unpacking all those layers of what's keeping a person from going after their goals and dreams or achieving whatever they're desiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So out of all the maybe logos or websites or, all the things that you've designed specifically earlier in your career, are there any that you now see completely differently, either because the client's business transformed or because your own taste did?
It's funny that you asked that because I actually went through my Yelp page. And we're on Yelp since 2010. So we're talking 16 years, Hugo.
Yeah, it's a lot of years.
And I put up a lot of design work on there in the beginning. And, we put up logos and web pages. And looking back, they were okay. They weren't bad and they weren't good. They were just okay. So I deleted a bunch of them and I replaced a lot of them with a lot of the new stuff that we've done. And
Yeah,
so now we're going to go revisit our Yelp page and build that up more, right? Just to build up more credibility and authority. So that's to your point, right? Yeah. I mean, it's like renovation, right? You got to look at everything and be like, yeah, that can stay. Okay, that's got to go. And then we just continue to work on that.
would if someone came to you today and they brought to you Transform Design as their brand, its name, story, visuals, they just land on your desk tomorrow.
Mhm.
What's the first thing you would tell yourself to start looking at to know what to fix?
Probably the brand. Probably start there, right? Because transforming businesses and so forth. But if I know that from Transform Design, then yeah, that would be the first thing I do is get to the beginning, logo, brand. What do I look like in the
Mm,
market,
yeah.
and then I would either fix it if things are bad, right? Or if I don't have anything and I need something, then I'll get the help I need to get that done. Yeah.
Do you find yourself like, and the reason I'm asking is because I'm a perfectionist at times, and I also tend to want to control things at times. But I know I can't do everything, being a dad, being a partner, being an employee, being a worker, being whatever. I can't do it, being a son. I can't do it all
Right.
because there's just so much to do. What would you say to someone who's just maybe they're good at design, maybe what they're doing is great,
Mhm.
but they just are too stuck in wanting to control everything?
That's tough, right? I mean, control. I mean, if you're used to doing that, then you have to learn how to not be in control, right? With the things that you shouldn't control, because with control comes a lot of pressure. With a lot of pressure can come a lot of stress, and so it goes back to why you're doing it, right? Because I strongly believe that whatever you do in your life, you have to enjoy it, you have to love it. It's something that you should just be able to wake up and be like, okay, I'm cool with this. This is something I can do for a long time and do it well, right? Do it with, you know, not necessarily perfectionism, but do it with excellence, right? Which is a difference. And so being able to work through that, and learn more about yourself is important, because, this is one of the reasons why I hired a team of designers and developers, because I did come across that very same issue, right? That pressure, that burden, that stress was on me in the very beginning of our business, and it was not good and or healthy for me and my family. But it is very real, and a lot of people go through it. But I mean, as you get older too, you start to realize I need to calm down a little bit. Things are, it doesn't have to be like level 10 all the time, right? And so we can
Yeah.
bring it down just a little bit. God's in control. That's how I look at it. And just keep moving forward. Just keep moving forward, and just knowing that things can work out. You do what you got to do. Yep.
Okay. You're based out in Oceanside, is that correct?
Oceanside, California. Yeah, it's North County, San Diego.
Okay, nice.
Hmm.
Do you only work with local, or are you also working with like outside cities in different places?
Yeah, we're global. Yeah, we
Global.
have clients in other countries too. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
And we
cool.
work nationally as well. So, yeah, I mean, businesses are everywhere, man. So I'm like, we can help.
Yeah,
We just have a conversation with them and just let them know what we do, and get to know their business and what they do, and that's really how it works in the beginning with an intro, or even if they don't become a client, they can always become a referral partner, right? Which we
yeah.
also have that as well. But yeah, I got some cool stuff in the works too. I'm creating a white label business in a box website, which pretty much it does a lot of things for businesses, and it's a system. So I'm looking forward to launching that within the next week or two.
Oh, really
So we'll
cool.
see. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's just really, really helping businesses with getting all the things that they should have without all the hassle.
Mm. No, I like that.
Hmm.
And the reason I ask is because I think you grew up in Connecticut, if I'm not mistaken, so in the East Coast.
Yep.
And so obviously that's the opposite side of the country from Oceanside.
Yep.
But is there anything about running a creative business that you, I don't know, did it change based on the city you were in? Like, did a city influence you in any way? Does that even matter?
It did. I mean, one of the big reasons why I moved to San Diego, California was for opportunity, right?
Mm,
I mean, I have family out here, and yeah, the weather is nice. I mean, it's tough to beat it, but it really came down to opportunity. And so the opportunities were over here, Connecticut, there's family back there too, and I miss them. But I wanted to be able to do a lot more than what they had to offer in Connecticut. But I mean, I did look into New York, but New York there's a lot going on there. It's very, heavily populated, and so I wanted to kind of get away from not having to be in that space in the big city life, even though it's heavily populated over here too. But it's still, I can go out and enjoy nature too. So it's like, so yeah, I mean, that decision did play a part, and
yeah, I love San Diego and Oceanside specifically. It's really
mhm,
cool.
yeah,
Transform design is officially categorized under business services, custom software, and multimedia and graphic design. I think all three are kind of different worlds. When a customer or client comes to you thinking they just need a website, what's the conversation where you find out that they actually need something closer to software or business strategy, or they need everything?
they need everything, right? So that's the answer, right? I deal with this when I'm on Thumbtack. Thumbtack is a good site, right? I mean, it's we generate a lot of business on there, but they're very service based, right? There's like type in your service, I want a logo. Somebody contacts me for the logo, right? So I spend, we'll do a great job doing logos for businesses, but then I'm like having to explain everything else that we do, because if
Mm,
I don't do that from the jump, they're gonna go, have the work done somewhere else. And so one of the issues that we've been facing is that so they'll come to us for design work, but then they'll have the website already started. You know what I'm saying? Right. They got another team working on the website and they got another company doing something else. And I'm like, see, that's the traditional model. Right. That's the model which we're used to, which we're now transitioning and changing all of that. Like not quickly, not abruptly, but over time, slowly, because not everybody's fully adopted AI as something they want to use in their business.
Right.
Some are actually against it, while others are just indifferent to it. It's like, I don't understand it, so I don't even know if I want to get involved.
Yeah.
While others are like very just like AI is everything, So
Sure.
it's that balance. AI is a tool. We can use it to help with this, and very specific. So that's where we come in, and we can help with all those gaps and all those pieces that are.
Why do you think people struggle with AI in design specifically, or like art or creative? Every creative guest I have struggles with it, and I am a creative. I mentioned to you I do music and I do other stuff as well, but I love the having something cut my work time in half and even spit. Like I know a lot of people. There's those AI blob music apps that you can make a song or whatever, have it write lyrics for you. But it's actually been very helpful for me to get through writer's block or get through scenarios where I'm like stuck and creatively I don't know where to move forward with it.
Mhm.
So what is your theory on why creatives are struggling with this AI?
Yeah, I mean, I get it because I take the hybrid approach to a lot of things that I do. I can design, and I can code, and I can do all those things. And so when I'm in the creative mode, if you will, I get the issues that creators have, right? Because there's a lot of pride into like doing things on your own and doing them perfectly. I mean, painters go through this, artists, graphic designers, they'll spend a whole day on a logo project. And there's guys that I've followed over the years that are into this stuff, and they're very good at it. Like no doubt about it. I mean, they got some really great work, and it shows. But they take their time. They'll sketch things out by hand, right? They'll go ahead and they'll fill everything with ink, like actual ink. And then they'll bring it in, they'll scan it into their scanner and bring it into like Illustrator. They'll vectorize it, and I mean, it's crafted very well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even though the skill and the talent is there, there's a lot of pride there saying, okay, well, I don't want AI to take this from me, rather than saying, okay, AI is good at this, maybe I can complement it. So it's always an either or. It's not a both
Mm,
and. And so I
yeah.
say it's a both and. I'm saying, okay, you can still do what you're doing, but just know that AI has a very specific purpose, for other things. Because right now it doesn't do a great job. Right. It may come out with some pretty cool illustrations and some really cool artwork, but at the end of the day, you still got to go in there, vectorize everything. You still got to go in there, refine it, and make it very, very high quality.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's doing everything for us completely. And so, but there's a fear. And that fear is AI one day is going to replace me. And if we really feel that way, then that's going to be a real struggle for anyone, not just designers and creators, but also writers. Think about writers, right? I mean, that's all they did. Their whole career is writing, and you telling me this AI is literally writing everything for me now. And so yeah, so instead of fighting it, right, they can get on board with saying, okay, I'm going to adopt it, and it can actually help me with writing. Right?
Hmm.
You can literally program and tell it how to write, so it writes in your literary style,
Yeah.
right? So it's more of a technical side of things, but yeah, these are the things that I think we all have to wrestle with and come to terms with. So we'll see how it goes in the future.
For sure. So I got a few questions that I want to ask, and I kind of want to make them like a quick brainstorm session with you. So the answers hopefully are shorter, but if you need to make them longer, you can. So I know that you emphasize mobile responsive design on websites. Have you ever had someone who doesn't like the recommendation of simple or I guess what is it, boring but functional, because they wanted something flashier? And what would you say to people who want like those like animated sites or with music or those flashy sites that people sometimes think it's is better?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's that's a good question. I'll keep it short. So we live in a time where you can give everybody what they actually want. If somebody came to me and say, "Hey, I want things like this," AI can help with doing that. So it's not like we can't do it. The thing is how we do it. So I can go ahead because the last thing I want to do is be fighting with clients. Okay. I don't have time for that. Right. We're either going to work together or we're not going to work together. That's pretty much, there's no middle ground with that. And so if we work together, right, I can give you what you want. Right. Of course, have to be compensated for the work that we do. But right, there's a caveat to this. I'm gonna get you what you want, but it's going to have to be done in a way that works. Right. So we're talking about giving them something that exceeds their expectations. And I'm all about exceeding expectations with clients. What they tell me to do and what they're envisioning, my job is to give them something better than what they thought they were going to get. And I treat all clients like that. Now, if I do a lot of work and I give them something better than what they've given to me,
Yeah.
and I think it's good and I think it's ready to go, and they push back on that, then I'm like, okay, we have to revisit this and find out, okay, what exactly do you want? Because if I'm off, I'm off. I'll humbly admit I was wrong. I'll take responsibility for that. And then we just keep working with them. And eventually we're going to get there unless they give up. But a lot of times they stick it through, even though it's a difficult process. But once we get the setup and the design and get through this whole initial part of the brand, and it's just a matter of just maintaining it, managing it, and then growing that brand. So the hardest part is the beginning. If you can get through the beginning of all the setup, the design work, the building, the structure part, after that is pretty straightforward. So hopefully it
Okay.
helps.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You are active on Indie Hackers, a community built mostly around solo founders and bootstrap software products. What do you get from hanging around that crowd and that you don't get from like maybe your design circles? And how does that influence your choices?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like you have to be, understand the audience in which you're in, right? And so I wear a lot of different hats, and I mean, I am who I am when I go into these different
Yeah, yeah,
settings and environments. But with that specific website, right, I know exactly who I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with a bunch of guys, mainly, they're just, very on the nerdy side, right? Just geeks and nerds and smart and intelligent. And it's all about tech, right? It's all about SaaS. It's all about, all this stuff. And I can get with that. Like it doesn't confuse me. I understand the lane, but at the same time, right? That's all that is though, right? So when I go in that space, it's just talking about stuff that I've done and sharing it, and people might engage and talk about some stuff, and that's cool. But then I'll go into the LinkedIn space, and it's mainly business. It's business is doing this, and the business is doing that, and then I'll jump into Twitter, and I'm sharing stuff there. And every platform has its differences. You
yeah,
go on Pinterest, it's mainly female. So I'm like thinking like, okay, what kind of stuff I got to put out there so that they would like, right? So it's understanding the audience, but it's also understanding the platforms. They have their strengths and they have their weaknesses. And same is true for marketing. Like we just don't market everywhere. Very, very specific target audience is where we focus,
yeah.
whatever makes the most sense. So,
Design Rush describes your work as helping clients build visibility, credibility, and long term growth.
mhm.
Those are all three different outcomes that don't always point in the same direction. When a client's design choice would boost visibility, but quietly cost them credibility, how do you have that conversation?
I mean, just be honest, be, thoughtful, because you always want to, keep in mind, we don't always know how people are going to react to what you have to say,
Yeah,
especially if it's a hard truth, right? But yeah, it's really coming down to, having an expectation and saying, okay, what is it you want to get out of this? Because if you really want to get something out of this is what it's going to take to get there. But yeah, I mean, credibility is a big part, and unfortunately, I dealt with clients who they would complain a lot, right? I'm not getting enough leads. This is usually the issue that I'll hear, and they're like, putting it on me, like blaming me, like it's your fault why I'm not getting any business, and it's your fault why I'm not getting any sales or leads, and so you have that kind of stuff going on, and I take it, and I do what I can to help, right? But
yeah,
but again, it's their space too, it's what they're doing. So whether it's medical's tough, it's so saturated, and then you have legal, which is a whole nother thing. And
hmm,
it's, and so it really is helping them to stand out more than their competition if they're working with us. But it's also their delivery and how they present themselves as a brand, right? Because my thing is, I actually have an example. I won't, put any clients on blast, but I work with someone, who was upset with me, and it was like, I'm not getting any leads, right? This whole thing, I'm not getting any leads. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to keep working on your site. I'm going to keep working. And then like 2 weeks later, I check his CRM, right? I look at his database, his information. I see about 10 leads in there. He's quiet because now he's getting business. So usually I quiet clients usually, right? Because they'll come after me. And then when they start getting the results of the leads and they start closing deals and getting, getting paid, and it's like, okay, I'm going to stay with him. It goes from blame shifting to, okay, all right, I respect what's going on now because it's right. Because, it's the actions. Actions speak
Yeah.
louder than words. And, I don't promise anything. I just say, hey, I'll do the work.
Yeah.
I'll do the best I can. I can't guarantee anything, but I can put you in a better position than where you're at now. That I can do.
Yeah. You do so much, man. I feel like you do a lot and you wear a lot, like you said, you wear a lot of hats. How do you know what project to put more time on and balancing that act?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I can give you the business 101 answer. If they're paying the most, you give them the highest attention.
Yeah.
Right. But, that's usually not the case, right? Because you want to treat everybody equal when it comes to business relationships, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not that it's about the money, the dollar amount, as much as it is about caring for your clients and helping them
Mhm.
the best you can and seeing them get results. Because I genuinely want to see them succeed, right? So as I'm working with them and we're working together for a period of time, it's like, are we scaling, growing together more as partners rather than a client relationship? Because, I've done it for many years where, clients worked with me like once or twice and that was it. So they're more
Yeah.
of like one-off jobs. But yeah, looking back, I could have done a better job at, retaining those relationships to be able to build on those and do more for them. But, it's hard when you're kind of at the beginning of the stuff and there's a lot of learning curve. And then there's, they're not even sure what they want to do either. So moving into this next stage of our business with AI integration, that's going to help with a lot of those things. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you
Hmm.
for answering that. We have a final tradition on the show. I used to be a rapper a long time
Okay,
ago,
cool.
and a songwriter, singer songwriter. So when I was into that scene, I would have freestyle battles with friends and
Okay.
this is not, I'm not going to make you rap or anything,
Okay. I was like, all right,
but
let's,
unless you want to.
no, I'm good.
No, but what I call this is it's a soul freestyle.
Okay.
So I'm going to draw a card from my soul card deck, and basically I'm going to give you a word, and you're going to tell me whatever comes from your heart. Essentially, the first thing that comes to your mind. It can be as long as you want it to be, but the word that I drew for you is scar.
Mm.
So whatever you feel called to say, to talk about a scar, this is your freestyle.
Yeah, hard work. That's what came to mind. So when I think about scar, it's like something that injures you, but it also helps prepare you for something next, and it's through those moments, through pain and trial and scars, if you will, that you can look back and say, okay, this is where I've been, this is what I've been through. And I just keep going, keep moving forward and working hard to get through that, whatever obstacle that we may face, especially in the context of business, but also in life in general as well.
Yeah, definitely. That was wonderful, man.
No problem, man.
Perfect. So the last thing is, where can people find you, Elias? Where can we, if we
Yeah.
want to work with you, if we want to see your work, if we want to find you, where can people go? What social media can they find you on?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm all over the internet. So you can go to our main website. That's transformeddesign.com. Right. Take a look at our portfolio, our case studies. You have questions, feel free to ask me. I'll be available for you. I'm all over the social media channels, LinkedIn, Alignable, Facebook. So yeah, just reach out. I'd be glad to talk about business and, whatever else you guys got questions about.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for making time for me today, for being here and talking to us. That means a lot that you spend time here. So thank you for being present. And with that being said, I always close off my podcast with a don't lose faith, lose fear, and peace, and let your heart be light. We'll see you all next time. All right, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.